Alan Chastanet, Prime Minister of St. Lucia.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for taking the time to speak to Breaking Travel News. Some very interesting points raised on stage here at the UNWTO conference in Jamaica. I'd like to ask you who you feel should take the lead in the development of the tourism industry here in the Caribbean. Is it you as politicians, or is it very much the private sector? Where would you come down on that?
Well, I think the politicians are the ones who have to first set up the framework to make it happen. So the raising of the funds, to me, has to be a legislative issue that we collectively be able to agree. And then it's the organizational structure. So the private sector organization, CHTA, in my mind, should continue being an advocacy group. I think the CTO needs to be revamped. I think that we lack statistics, we lack a strategy. So that's really, to my mind, what should be coming out, a sharing of best practices in the region. And I think there should be a separate entity dealing with a marketing initiative.
And you mentioned that should be an ongoing program, receiving funds, and it should be not just every now and again, it should be always moving forward.
You know, Mercedes-Benz never stops advertising. It doesn't matter how good they are, they still are advertising all the time. And the Caribbean needs to recognize that we got to continue driving demand and be on top of our game.
There's been a lot of talking about human capital in the Caribbean as well, and just one of the focuses of this event. Do you feel that there's potential there to develop and offer opportunities to the people of the Caribbean in this industry?
In multiple ways. One, certainly in terms of entrepreneurship, and the other one clearly is in skills training. You know, one of the programs we're doing in our island is we're doing a 6-month training program to facilitate young kids going on the cruise industry, which I think is a great university, because they get on there, it's international, it's a lot of hard work, and then when they come back home, they've already been well acclimatized, and instead of going to university in which they have to spend a whole heap of money, they're actually earning money and getting, I think, just as a good of a start in tourism, because tourism is still very apprenticeship driven. People always have to start at the bottom, even if you have a first degree. So definitely, I think, in the areas of skill setting, culinary arts, maintenance facilities, all these things are important skill sets that we have to continue to grow and improve on in the Caribbean.
And you're very much taking concrete steps under your leadership in the destination. You've recalibrated the tax regime to develop the tourism industry as well. What can you tell us about that?
Well, basically, yeah, if you think of tourism as being an export, it means that you want, when the price is being sold in the market, to be with void of as many taxes as possible. And so it's when the people come to the island that you find different ways to create the tax. So if you're creating employment, I keep on saying, how many jobs and how much taxes does a hotel that doesn't exist contribute to your country? And the answer to that question is none. So in fact, if you get the hotel and you create the jobs and now people have money to spend, that's where you start making your money as a destination. And then it's all the ancillary services that the industry is being provided. So tourism is really just a catalyst, and you're bringing demand that didn't exist in your country, bringing it to your country. To really capitalize now on the infrastructure investment that you're making, you must find more products to sell. So Mexico and Turkey are the two leaders in the world, in terms of clothing, liquor, pottery, art, everything else. In the case of St. Lucia, our number one thing we're looking to sell is real estate. We want to become one of the best secondary home markets in the world.
It's an interesting agenda. You mentioned you'd like to be the leading destination in the Caribbean within 10 years. You've already come some way, recognized the leading honeymoon destination for the last 3 years at the World Travel Awards. How will you know you've arrived as the top destination?
Consumer satisfaction, and then when you see that there's more demand than there is supply. So to me, it's very, very easy. And then also when everybody in the country is benefiting from it, that everybody sees that it's truly their business, and everybody defends it. So it's not about just growing in numbers, but it's about the overall impact it's making in your economy. So small businesses matter in this matter. And
you said visitor figures itself was not a particularly interesting metric for you. That's quite an interesting perspective.
It's the biggest delusional number that exists. So you can have 100,000 arrivals, but if people are only spending 2 nights, that's 200,000 room nights. And if they're only spending $100 a night, then it's $100 times the 200,000. Versus if people are now spending 10 nights and are spending $400 a night. Okay, so really it's the revenue that's generated that's more meaningful number. The number of arrivals is just a first indicator, but it's certainly not your overall arching number that you should be focusing your development goals on.
And just a final question. The UNWTO have been very keen to talk about over-tourism this year and the impact of tourism on ecology and destinations. Is that something you're aware of if you're seeking to grow the numbers so much?
Absolutely, but I think that the SIDS, small island developing states of the world, are less than 0.5% of the carbon footprint in the world. So we've not reached that number. And we're in this catch-22 situation where we need to continue to grow our economies. We need to generate revenues in order to be able to build the resilience. And tourism is that greatest opportunity that we have. But we're seeing a lot of innovation in tourism, green energy, even people's appetites in terms of food is changing. So I think that going down the road, things that you didn't think that people would have paid for in the past are now prepared to pay for those points of differentiation.
Some interesting points, and thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you.